Now, for more on the impacts of the novel coronavirus on Singapore's tourism industry, we have with us in the studio Keith Tan. He's Chief Executive of the Singapore Tourism Board. Good evening, Keith. Good to see you here today.
Hi.
All right, so what kind of impact have we seen on Singapore's tourism industry so far since this novel coronavirus outbreak began?
It's a huge impact because China accounts for about 20% of our total visitor arrivals the last few years. So the travel restrictions that have been progressively put in place over the last 10 days or so have bitten very deeply into our hotels, trade, inbound travel agents, tourist guides, F&B attractions across the board.
All right, the thing is now we're dealing with people, with human emotions and the decisions that people have to make. How is the Singapore Tourism Board allaying tourist fears? Can you at this stage?
Well, we have to do the best that we can. And there are different segments and different target audiences. Ultimately, we must remember that STB is not just about bringing people into Singapore. That's a short-term, day-to-day business objective of visitor arrivals. But there's a longer-term game plan, which is what's our overall brand equity. And so we have to keep on investing now, especially in the image and the reality of Singapore as a safe, reliable, healthy place to visit.
Are you able to reach out to those customers who might be considering cancelling their trips at this time?
Absolutely. So we have activated all of our regional offices outside China to step up their marketing efforts. We continue with our pre-planned marketing efforts. We just had an event in Yangon this past weekend. We have a series of events going on in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Cambodia, and other countries around the world, which we will continue to pursue. Through our network of offices around the world, we're also pushing out information to our travel partners on all the things that we're doing here in Singapore to keep Singaporeans and visitors safe and healthy. Singapore's
had to take some strong measures in regards to travel restrictions. We see that those kicked in over the weekend, the one specifically for tourists going into China. What effects are we expecting? And how is the tourism sector going to be hit over that? Well, there's simple math, because we know that Chinese arrivals account for 20% of our total visitor arrivals. So if that evaporates overnight, there's an immediate effect on hotel occupancy, on attractions, and so on. So that's the immediate impact. We don't know how long the situation will last, so it's a little bit too early to tell how our overall annual forecast will look like. But we're doing the sums right now. And that very point there is what businesses don't like to hear, isn't it, Keith? We don't know how long this is going to last. And you mentioned the fact that hotels will be hit. We know travel agencies have been hit as well. What's being done to support hotels and those agencies that have been affected by this? Well, ultimately, we have to be prepared for the worst-case scenarios. And then if the situation is indeed better than we expected, then that's a great outcome for all of us. As the Deputy Prime Minister has already said, and as Minister Chan has also said, there is a lot of effort going on in government to put together a package of measures to support the entire economy, not just the tourism economy. Over the weekend, we've announced measures, immediate measures to support some of the business costs of hotels that have affected cases, or throughout the travel agent business as well, by waiving some of their licensing fees. So that's immediate first step, and we expect other measures to come in place. So in light of how this situation continues to evolve every day, and the fact that strategy, in a sense, has to be rejigged, as it were, from time to time, what other advisories are STB, sort of putting out to its relevant stakeholders now? Well, to the stakeholders here in Singapore, we're pushing out as much information as we can to help them understand and make sense of the situation. But there is a single message that I'm trying to send out, which is stay the course. This is a temporary blip, as we learned from SARS in 2003, and we will recover. We will overcome. But that means that we must keep our eye on the long-term game plan of developing Singapore's destination attractiveness. We cannot let this derail our longer-term strategies for enhancing our tourism attractiveness to leisure and business visitors. Certainly, life and business carries on. Absolutely. Keith, thank you very much for coming into the studios to share that with me. We've been talking to Keith Tan, their Chief Executive at the Singapore Tourism Board.